Those willing and able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody ready? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda with the additions of 3.1.1, Jasper Lions Club donation of $160 to the elementary book fair, and 3.12, Pipestone Publishing donation of $13.45 to the Athletic Help Fund.
So moved. Second.
Katie and Chrissy. Okay, any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Number 4, public forum.
No.
Nothing? Okay. Number 5, presentation. Anything there, Deb? Okay. Move on to number 6, the consent agenda. Is there anything anybody wants removed from the consent agenda? Anything anybody wants removed? Okay, before we approve the consent agenda, I would like to thank 6.3.1, the anonymous donor of an assault air bike to the wrestling program. 6.3.2, Christ the King Lutheran Church donation of $100 to the wellness room. 6.3.3, Pipestone Holdings LLC donation of $1,641 to the Elementary Help Fund. 6.3.4, Jasper Lions Club donation of $240 to the Elementary Book Fair for kindergarten. 6.3.5, Jasper Lions Club donation $160 to the Elementary Book Fair for the first grade. 6.3.6, Pipestone Publishing Company donation of $1,345 to the Athletic Help Fund. And in the consent agenda, we have letters of resignation of Barb Paulson. I'd like to thank her for her 10 years of service to the district. She was 6.5 on the agenda. 6.6, letter of resignation from Gloria Schmidt, paraprofessional, of 25 years to the district. And 6.7, letter of resignation from Sharon Peterson, paraprofessional, and her 15 years to the district. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
One of you want to do second?
Second.
Got that, Deb?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Move on to number 7, financials. 7.1, review elementary building budget year-to-date. Jackie.
This is the latest budget, latest expenditures. It's all tied out. It was a challenge. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Jackie? Any questions? Hearing none, that's a non-action item. 7.1.1, review new elementary building bills. Are there any questions on the new elementary building bills? Any questions?
This month was about 588,000, so still have about just over $1 million left of different things to pay out. Right now, we are looking at about a $400,000 surplus, not surplus, contingency, so we will have some dollars there to utilize how we want. I know we've got some elementary, that north side out there to look at, so, and the loading dock was still an issue, so, but things are kind of starting to shape up and look that way, so.
Is there still a problem with the doors between the two buildings, or is there not? Wasn't there something about, I thought I said something. I thought it was a fire or something.
There's some, we have, the doors between the buildings are okay. There's some other doors, like the elementary main doors. some stuff with the gym doors over. There's just a few access where the readers are acting a little funny. Josh has been working to get them straightened out, but between the buildings, they're working
So it's
fine.
not the door itself, it's just that the,
It's the technology
Okay.
stuff that's a part of
Gotcha.
it, so. And then we have doors that we didn't get parts, so we've still got some that don't have the,
okay,
it's the little detail-y things, there's still some.
so it's not a design issue, it's not a.
No, it's
Something
just
they gotta fix.
stuff we gotta fix.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions? Hearing none, that's a non-action item. We'll move it on to 7.1.2, approve treasurer's report for elementary building bond. Jackie?
It's just a treasurer's report for the building bond. At the end of October, we're showing $1.7 million balance.
Okay.
I'll move to approve the treasurer's report for the new building.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Amy? Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the treasurer's report for the elementary building bond signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. 7.2, review of budget year-to-date. Jackie?
I didn't make any budget transfers. I'm going to wait until January when I amend this budget, because there are so many unknowns in June, so there'll probably be quite a few amendments. However, we're currently at 34% budget year-to-date, and last year, at this time, we're at 33%. So it looks like we're in line overall. I just need to move some money around and amend the budget due to ESSER and to other various things.
Okay. Are there any questions on the budget year-to-date? Any questions? Hearing none, that's a non-action item. Move on to 7.3, approve the treasurer's report for October. Jackie?
Should be page 20.
Oh, there it is. Okay, current cash balance is 8.4 million. This is just basically where I reconcile the bank reconciliations, tying out to you first.
Okay. But of that 8.4, you still have the building, new building money is in there, as well as a payment. The taxes collected for that coming up, or they show up in that as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
And the audit's coming along. Final numbers have to be out there by November 30th. They're probably pretty final right now. You'll see a budget publication in the newspaper on Wednesday.
Okay.
Report will be presented in December.
Okay. Any questions?
I'll move to approve the treasurer's report for October.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Chrissy? Okay. Any questions again? Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the treasurer's report for October signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Move on to 7.4, approve regular bills for November. Are there any questions on the bills? Any questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the regular bills for November?
So moved.
Second. Did you get them, Deb?
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor of approval of the regular bills for November signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. 7.5, approve high school activity bills for November. Are there any questions? Any questions? Can I have a motion to approve the high school activity bills for November? So moved.
Second.
Did you get them, Deb? Okay. All those in favor of approval of the high school activity bills for November signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Move on to 8, board forum and information. 8.1, board reports and updates. Does anybody from the board have anything they wish to contribute? Anyone? Well, negotiations has met with Rudolph's, and I think we've got a lot of stuff hashed out. There's still some things we need to look at and talk about, but I think we're coming along real good there. Don't you, Brad? We
See, it
also,
was the first meeting.
right. Gotta have
Just a
faith.
lot of contract
Yeah,
readings and
yeah.
things that probably should have been done before, don't you think, Kevin?
Well, I think they're
Other
really
things.
concerned about bus drivers right now.
Yes.
And there are some,
Right.
I mean, I don't know how much we want to talk about, but I mean, the concerns that were expressed is some of the contract requirements and them having availability of drivers for extracurricular and some of those things. I think the routes are fine, but some of that extra stuff gets to be, and they don't just serve us. I mean, they get called to serve area school districts, colleges. You know, they're being taxed to, I shouldn't say taxed, they're just being used heavily right now because you hear about the bus driver shortages across the state. So that is a thing.
Yeah.
They're always looking for 2-year extensions on their contract, and Mike actually asked for 1. So there are some conversation items that the school district's going to have here with them on that. Is that fair enough?
Right, and part of it is they do want to renegotiate some of the stuff next year because of what, the unknowns with fuel costs and
Right.
and labor shortages. The other one, we did meet with Kevin as well, and I think we're pretty well done there. We just got to bring it back and look at it again, I think, and,
Full board in December.
yep, full board in December then, and so, that's all I've got. Anybody else have anything?
I had a couple of people actually that had kids out sick that really, they were very impressed by how well our teachers helped those kids stay on where they're supposed to be, and the nurses both were very good with just kind of helping them out and navigating when and where, what they should do and when they should come back. So they were very impressed.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And I know my daughter, she was out sick and had been tested, and through waiting for the results, it changed, you know, whether or not she was counted absent one way or counted absent another, so that part is nice too. So,
I know because of the ESSER funding, we decided to go with 2 full-time or 2 RNs rather than just the one with para. I think we were really concerned about how the year was going to go, and right now, it's been kind of a godsend. The nurses have just been so helpful with communicating with families, and I don't know how we're ever going to go away from that model. It's been really good, so.
okay,
And they're busy. All day long seems to be a lot of stuff going on right now. So good to have that expertise here helping us through this time.
nope. Okay, then we move on to number 9, Administrators Report, 9.1, Superintendent's Report.
Just enrollment is up again this month, 4 students, but for the year, we're up about a dozen, so it's every year seems like every other year I've given that, we tend to dip down a little bit each month, and so far this year, we've been just increasing, so that's good to keep moving in that direction. Did attend the MREA conference last week. Very good conference again, very much appreciate taking a team. Miss Wellnitz went along, Miss Reynolds and Mr. Wheelenberg, so the 4 of us were there, and I really liked their conference. One of the highlights with MREA is they do a really good job advocating for rural schools at the legislature, and the legislative update was kind of interesting to see how things are going to go. They gave us a heads up. They just said, you're going to hear some crazy things coming out of the Capitol. Don't worry, we're just going to have it out with some things. And in the end, they feel there won't be too much craziness going on. But I think they're looking for an interesting battle. And they keep going back to how Minnesota is one of the few states that has a split legislative body. So the Republicans control the Senate and the Democrats control the House and the governor, so there's always a split, and so that always adds for some, and it seems like the last few sessions, they've come together and figured it out, so it's probably a good thing. That's the way we're kind of looking at that, so. Just an update, I know I've sent out stuff. You're hearing about large employers having to mandate vaccinations or testing. That's kind of on hold. The School Board Association said we should stay in kind of a holding pattern on that. There's some legal arguments taking place. I did get a email from OSHA who said that they're in a holding pattern now on this, so they want to wait to hear. So there was some timelines of probably looking at having to do this starting in January, so we haven't really done, we're just kind of sitting and watching right now. I have communicated with the union leadership about this thing coming maybe down the pike here, and we'll work through it as we figure out where things are at. So that's kind of where that's at. And then I just would like the Brown and Hill properties, if you've driven by recently, they both have been seeded now, so they're pretty much done. He's hauling equipment. He does have to cap sewers off, so hopefully next week, DRC will be completed with the demolition process of both properties. I did talk with Winter Group. Sounds like they're finishing touches on the contract with the Sutton Auctioneers, and should be starting to talk about an auction date in January. I was hoping could have had something added onto the board here tonight, but I didn't get anything from them yet, so they're still, I'm thinking January is probably where we're going to be. They're going to start advertising, and so I'll keep you posted. I don't know if we need, does the board need to set the date, or can we just kind of agree and?
I'd say they're the experts, so if they haven't.
I agree.
I mean, if they say January 10th, I mean, I don't know what day January 10th, but, I mean, if they say January 10th or January 15th, I mean, they're going to run it, they're going to advertise, they're going to promote, they're going to do all those.
So it's not when we're gone to the conference.
Okay, I will say, no, we're not doing it when we're at MSBA, how's that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sounds
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
I know,
a lot of us will
okay,
be
I'm
gone.
going to be gone too, so
Yeah.
I don't want to be gone for that day,
I'll
so.
be here to represent you.
So now-
Just bring that checkbook, Lance, and number,
Yeah.
bid them up.
Okay.
Oh,
Anything else?
That's all I got.
Okay. Then we'll move on to 9.2, Principals Board Report. Corey?
Well, honestly, I don't have anything for tonight. We're just we wrapped up quarter one, and we're just trying to establish the consistency into quarter two. With, a few changes with classes and such, but overall, things are moving along. Winter seasons are in full swing, which just helps, create a different atmosphere, and that's just trying to keep things moving. So, unless you have questions for me.
Any questions for Corey?
Are you going to post a quarter one honor roll?
We're working on it.
The paper or on social media? I mean, I just feel like that's kind of gone by the wayside.
Well, she's working on it.
Okay.
So what will be our publishing on that? Will it, where are we going to put it? Is it just going to be on the website, or?
Well,
what?
I think back, we typically post it here in the school. I can't remember if we go in the newspaper.
They used to
Sometimes it
always
is,
be in the
sometimes it
newspaper.
is.
I think
Yeah.
it should be in the
It
newspaper.
always used to be, and then I don't think I've seen it for a while
I
now.
haven't
think
seen it for a really long time.
It may have been withheld for budget restraints at one point, but I think financially the district could put it back in, but.
If you want me to have it in the paper, I'd put it in the paper.
That was a news release. I don't think we paid for it.
That's fine.
I think it should.
I think it should be, I mean,
Definitely,
I mean-
because
Yeah.
it's just as important as you're
Yeah.
playing sports or anything else.
Exactly.
Right.
You should be
More important
recognized for,
than
well,
playing
right,
sports.
whatever, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean, that it's,
yeah,
It's good recognition of academic
Yeah.
achievements.
yeah, I agree.
Okay?
Okay.
Anything else for Corey? Anything else? Hearing none, then we'll move on to 9.3, Director of Curriculum Teaching and Learning Board Report. Melanie?
Good evening. I'm updating you on our Communication Day information as part of you, the board, allowing us to have communication days and to have early outs. It was stated that the board wanted some data to support how it's going. So October 20th, I put out a parent communication survey. We had 200 responses. 95% of those responses had received communication. The top modes of communication received, you could pick multiple choices, so you're going to have over 100% if you add it up. But our phone call was 29%, a personalized email was 63%, and Seesaw just by itself was 23%. Some had put in Seesaw and email, so for the next quarter when I send it out, Seesaw is a choice, just not added on to the bottom. As far as satisfaction, they could choose 1 as not satisfied, all the way to 5 as extremely satisfied. The percentage of choosing 1, 2, and 3 was 17.5%, 4 was 27%, and 5 was 55.5%. So overall, over 70% favorable, a 4 or 5 rate, which is really nice. Because I am the administrator on our Seesaw account, I'm able to see kind of a highlight reel. And I came across one of the videos that one of our elementary teachers sent home. And I asked if I could show it. If we could not write about the student's name, Kyle, that would be awesome, so that we can hear and see what this is looking like. If I had to have a dream about when we came up with communication days, what it would look like, this is it. This is one example. And by being able to communicate and share in that way, it's like they're having that parent-teacher conference. And then they send it through Seesaw, and if parents have questions, they can communicate that way. They can also communicate through phone and email and be in person. So, so far, we're having great success. The next time I update you, I will also have a picture of how each student has been communicated with the number of things I had tonight. I didn't dig into that, so. Do you have questions about anything I've presented so far?
that's very neat.
Looks good.
Okay?
One of the results of the COVID and distance learning, things like that in an elementary classroom, that's how teachers have communicated, and some of it sticks, so.
Okay. Anything else? Anything else, Melanie? Nothing? Okay, we'll move on to number 10, discussion items. Nothing? Move on to number 11, board action. 11.1, approve second reading of policy 534, school meals policy.
Just a reminder, this was an update of some requirements the state and federal have with the policy, so we incorporated what we had with our meal payments and into this, so we just had it for two meetings, no feedback on it, so should
Okay.
be good to go.
Are there any questions? Any questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the second reading of policy 534, school meals policy?
So moved.
Brad
Second.
and Lance. All those in favor of approval of the second reading of policy 534 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. 11.2, Annual American Indian Parent Advisory Committee Annual Compliance. Kevin.
We're required to have a American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. this is giving your approval of that. We do have some funds that come through the state. We have a number of the minimum required number of required students to qualify for this, so.
The requirement is to have at least 20 students the prior October 1st enrolled as American Indian education students. Last October, we had 21. This October, we'll have 34. And so we'll probably be able to get it again the following year. So we're, if you have just the basic of 20, then you get $20,000, but since we have at least one more, we get $20,350. We have to apply for it. 2 years ago, when we were eligible, we focused on the elementary grade levels. This time, we're focusing on the middle school, high school. And there are 5 areas in the plan. We're only focusing on 2 of them. The first one is make curriculum relevant to the needs, interests, and cultural heritage of American Indian pupils. And the group that I worked with came up with some ideas of selecting grade band common read of a native authored book at grades 6 through 8, and another one at grades 9 through 12. So every kid in those grade bands would be reading the same book, and they could do activities and units in social studies, in English classes, and potentially in science classes. So that's something that I, as the curriculum director and the person who watches out for standards implementation, is really excited about. We're also looking at creating a 9 through 12 elective course on American Indian history, including a study of the Southwest Minnesota's American Indian history and the Pipestone Indian School. I mean, we fortunately and unfortunately live in an area that is ripe with history that many of our students may not know. And that's our job, to educate them in that and bring it to life. We're also looking at expanding the Westward Expansion Unit in 10th grade social studies course to include American Indian history from Southwest Minnesota and the Pipestone Indian School, and then expand the Minnesota Literature Unit in 9 through 12 ELA classes to include more short stories and essays written by American Indian authors. And all of that directly aligns to our district goal of we are working toward the objective of having 80% of our students proficient in reading by 2023, according to our district strategic plan. The second area we're looking at is to develop intercultural awareness among pupils, parents, and staff. And we're doing this through researching and ranging for native speakers to present to students, parents, and staff in grades 6 through 12. Ideally, we're looking for native speakers from Southwest Minnesota, and they will be our priority. And the grade level common read also fits in this area because we're looking at that intercultural awareness at the same time that we're looking at reading. So hosting native speakers, it goes with our district goal alignment to increase academic achievement of all students through effective instruction and challenging, engaging, and aligned curriculum and assessments. Hosting native speakers will create engagement for students in ELA and social studies courses. The common read of a native authored book will provide alignment of the Minnesota ELA and social studies academic standards around the Minnesota American Indian authors and works. And finally, the speakers in common read will provide instructional content that is challenging, engaging, and aligned to curriculum and assessments. Our planned budget right now is to purchase a book for every kid will be a little more expensive. So we're looking at spending $10,000 in that area on the book purchase. The native speakers were about $5,358, and then curriculum pay for teachers to create courses and units is at $5,000. Questions on our plan? Anything about our American Indian Ed plan for finances?
What do you have for speakers?
We are in the process of researching, and so do you have a suggestion?
One time at the fair, we had Bud, can't think of his last name.
Bud Johnston, yep.
He was pretty interesting.
And he was
And his
mentioned by
wife.
our group too, so.
And his wife, I think it's Mona.
Yeah, I
That's
think
right,
so.
Dan. Both of them were, it was kind of interesting to me, and we didn't have too many people that listened to it at the fair, but to me, it was interesting just to learn more about it. And They're from town here, so nice people, so.
Very
We
nice.
did have one conversation with a Flandreau tribe, but they're South Dakota, and MDE is like, gives
I'm
us.
sure.
And this is our plan now.
Yeah.
I have to submit this after you guys approve and sign it. And the American Indian Ed group at MDE may say, no, come up with something else. So
Okay.
they're very selective on, and of course they should be. It's their funding, but we're also required to apply for it because we're eligible for it, so.
Okay. Anything else from anybody? Anything? Can I have a motion to approve the annual American Indian Parent Advisory Committee annual compliance?
So moved.
Second.
Lance and Randy. All those in favor of approval of the annual American Indian Parent Advisory Committee annual compliance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. 11.3, approval of Wendy Schoolmeister as the board appointee to the Continuing Ed Committee.
Continuing Ed Committee is the teachers have to renew their license every 5 years with clock hours. And this committee is the committee that goes through and analyzes and makes sure that all teachers who are applying for renewal have those. The board needs to appoint one community member. Wendy's done it for quite a while and willing to keep doing it, so.
Okay?
The rest of the committee is taken care of by the teachers, and then one administrator needs to be on that committee also, so.
Okay. Are there any questions? Any questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve Wendy Schoolmeister as the board appointee to the Continuing Ed Committee?
So moved.
Second.
Brad and Katie. All those in favor of approval of Wendy Schoolmeister as the board appointee to the Continuing Ed Committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. 11.4,
Whoops.
Freight train.
Freight train, I'm
Frank
hearing.
Friend's calling, holy cow. I'm gonna call and see what my ringtone is. Maybe I better not.
11.5, approved technology surplus equipment.
You missed 11.4.
Oh, you're correct. 11.4, approval of to declare items obsolete.
I'll make a motion to declare items obsolete. Second.
Okay, any questions?
I just have directed Mr. Stengel and Mr. Stukel, we're just not, we don't need to have a storehouse, and if we're not gonna use it, and I do go through and, I mean, some of this is food service stuff, and there were some things on here that I said, wait a minute, I don't think we wanna get rid of that, so there are some things that are worth holding on to, because programs may change in 5 or 10 years, or something maybe go on different, but this is equipment that we just won't use anymore, so.
Okay. Are there any questions? Any questions? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve to declare items obsolete?
So moved.
Katie
Second.
and Lance.
One other thing, we will, again, post these for 30 days, and hopefully if anybody has interest, they can propose, or Rich has found a reasonable price that is on there, and if people are willing to take these things and you find a use for them, most certainly we'll do that, so I think that's our preference, to try to sell things
Okay.
if anybody's interested and has need, so. We advertise them on our website for 30 days, correct, Deb?
Okay, we have first and second and discussion, so all those in favor to approve to declare items obsolete signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. 11.5, approved technology surplus equipment.
Same thing.
Okay. Are there any questions? Any questions?
I think Josh can actually, they recycle these, he gives these or sells these off to a company, and they give us some credit, so when we have repairs and stuff.
Technology equipment, we haven't.
Obsolete items were Randy and Brad, and then technology was Katie.
We got first and second. We haven't voted on it, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All those in favor to approve technology surplus equipment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. 11.6, approve combined summary of 2020-2021 World's Best Workforce Achievement and Integration Report. Melanie.
Been a while since we've had visuals.
Yep.
Couple reminders. Reminder that sharing this report is a requirement of the World's Best Workforce and Achievement and Integration legislation. A further reminder of the effects of the pandemic and those effects that were made on education in our prior school year. The other reminder is that this is of last school year, so this is a summative report. It is not about this year. It is about last year. The ultimate takeaway, so I'm giving you the end before the beginning, but the ultimate takeaway is we still have work to do to accomplish our goals. It's very clear. And with those reminders of the pandemic and things that went on, keep good filters to keep in mind. So our World's Best Workforce, our strategic plan states we will achieve the goals of the World's Best Workforce for all students in the district. The first part is all students are kindergarten ready. 85% are at low risk, or were at low risk on the fall early reading screener. The previous year was 70%. 90% were at low risk in the fall for early math screener. The previous year, 74% were at low risk. This goal is on track. So our last year's kindergartners came in higher than the previous year's kindergartners. Quite interesting.
Of course, the superintendent said, why is that?
So why is that? You know, there are lots of questions of why is that, but we can think about, okay, children were at home, you know, are shut down. Our last year, you know, the prior year to that, they spent a lot of time at home. We also had our preschool virtual, so they didn't lose out on preschool. They still could participate in preschool. And our kids, what's happening at the preschool with our CEM and making sure that what they're teaching is aligned to the early childhood expectations, the ESIPs, that's the standards for preschool, that is going very well. And we're realizing the effects of that every year we get kids out of preschool into kindergarten. So this is another step in the right direction.
What does CEM stand for?
I knew you would ask that, and I should have looked it up.
Classroom engagement model?
Yes, thank you. Good job, Mr.
I
Enerson.
listen.
Thank you. I have too many acronyms in my head.
So, I don't know, I'm not understanding. So we're doing better than the year before?
Correct.
Okay.
In
Because to
kindergarten.
me, when I read that, to me, it shows it's doing worse. That's why I was, okay. At
Low
low
risk.
Low risk is, they're doing well.
Gotcha.
Low
I
risk
see what
is
you're saying.
at grade level, essentially.
Okay. Perfect.
Some risk and high risk are not at grade
Okay,
level.
yeah. Gotcha.
Again, you have to watch this data for a few years to, what is it? Was it CEM? Was it COVID? And we were engaging and asking parents to be more engaged with kids and doing things, and shows you what that means and how that works. Again, this is why you always kind of go, okay, let's see what's going on here, because
Well, and I use
I
the
was ready for
same.
negative data.
Right, I was ready for negative data across the
world.
board. And I use the same presentation, I just make a copy from year to year, and I'm like, whoa, because I was expecting all negative, but it wasn't. Our next is, we will achieve the goals of the World's Best Workforce for all students in the district. All students read at grade level by third grade. 45.6% of our third grade students were proficient on the 2021 MCA reading test, And keep in mind, we did not have MCAs in 2020, so the last time that they were tested at the third grade level was 2019, and they were at 44.7%. So they gained at a grade level, which is nice. We also disaggregate our data, and for this particular one, we look at our EL students, and 16.7% of our English language learners in third grade were proficient on the MCA reading test. In 2019, 0% were proficient. So some nice gains going on at that grade level, and we're on track because that's a multi-year goal.
Can you back up one second?
Yes, I sure can.
I hate to keep intervening in your presentation.
I'm glad you do.
I just, little things, but you also take big picture look. Half of our students are not where we want them. And our goal is to have them all. And we know that if all of our kids are at grade level by the end of third grade, they have a really good chance of being successful for the rest of school. So again, half of our kids, we've got some work to do to get, so, it's positive.
Yep, it's positive, but remember our ultimate takeaway. We still have work to do. And I tend to have to look at the glass half full. And I'm glad I have the reminder that now Melanie. And I'm like, yep, I agree with that. Closing achievement gaps between student groups. We will achieve the goals of the world's best workforce for all students in the district, closing the achievement gaps for identified student groups. Our two student groups that have identified gaps are our free and reduced lunch students and our English language learner students. For reading, our free and reduced student group had 34.8% proficiency, which is down from 47.3% in 2019. In comparison, our non-free and reduced, and that's where you find the gap, is when you take a student group and compare it to those who are not in that student group. So our non-free and reduced student group for 2021 was at 45.9% proficiency and was at 64.6% in 2019. So there's one big reason why that may be as low of a number of our non-free and reduced is many of the free and reduced students did not fill out paperwork last year. So they're technically, in 2019, were classified as free and reduced, and in 2021 aren't classified as free and reduced. So our non-free and reduced isn't as accurate because of that. So until the school lunch program and the free and reduced process gets reevaluated, we heard about that at MREA with the legislative update as well, like what are they going to do about that? How's it going to look? Do we need to have that? Are we always going to have free lunch for students? Then we don't need to, so many things to consider, but there's a huge amount of funding tied to free and reduced students. And if we're not accurately gauging that, we're going to lose out. And therefore, we're also not going to be able to figure out, always, we can figure out who's below other than just looking at their free and reduced status, but to have the funding and the FTEs there to support them is very important as well.
I always like to compare apples to apples, and I don't think this is apples to apples.
No.
So this is a really hard number to.
It's a hard number to swallow.
I don't know.
And we don't have 2020 data because we didn't test, so.
So how will we get the funding if it's to this free and reduced? How are we gonna get where we need to be, or?
We need to have
If we're
families fill
losing
out
something-
paperwork. We need to have families complete the
No
free and
matter
reduced
if
forms, no
they're
matter if
using
they're
it or
paying
not.
for lunch or not. You need to fill out the form.
Ours is what, Jackie, compensatory, 250,000?
Yeah, more, there's a lot of money in compensatory revenue.
Last year, the state tried to tie those EBT benefits, right, to the free and reduced lunch application, so if you filled it out, you got the benefit, so that helped.
That's not necessarily.
Still, that's the most
You didn't-
needy cases are still
Yeah.
filling that
You
out.
didn't get the extra EBT money unless you already qualified for EBT.
But that was a way they tried to incentivize people, right, to fill it out, like one way they
Yes.
tried to help.
Yeah, but that may have caught maybe,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna just.
Not as many as we needed.
We were at
exactly.
50% free and reduced, half of our students prior.
Yeah.
Now we're
Like 30.
27% or. 23.
So if you go look on the Minnesota report card right now, it doesn't say 50% anymore. So then that skews this, and so it's a plea to fill out the paperwork and turn it in.
That's what I was gonna say, we really need to push this.
Mm-hmm.
So we
It's
can
very
keep our
important.
data good and our
Mhm.
funding and.
Well, and to be able to have the supports for the students who need it the most.
Right.
I mean, we'd like to have a title teacher, 2 title teachers for reading, and at least 1 title teacher for math to go work with our math interventionist through achievement and integration. So there's FTEs tied to that. There's resources tied to that. And it's important for our students to have it, because when we don't, look what we get. So
we could actually lose out on teachers helping with these kids that need help by this.
Well, how much did we lose in compensatory?
250,000.
We lost to it.
we lost. Mhm.
Yeah.
We got less.
Yeah.
We didn't lose it.
Yeah.
We got less.
Received less.
But I'm guessing that's going on everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So I mean, it's gonna be, I would think, something that'll be on the radar.
Right, and it is at the legislative, arena already, but how are they going to, what is it going to look like? Because the state receives the Title I funds as well, so if we're all receiving less, then they're gonna receive less, and
Right.
so. All right, our EL group, for 2021 was at 19.1% in reading proficient. In 2019 was 14.3%. The non-EL student group was at the 45% proficient, and in 2019 was the 58% proficient. So reading, you're going to see over the board, takes a hit during the time of COVID for the kids in 3rd through who are assessed by the reading MCA test. And that starts in 3rd grade through 8th grade and 10th grade. Our math, our free and reduced group was 27.6% proficient. In 2019 was 30.9%. The non-free and reduced student group was 41.3% proficient, and in 2019 was 52% proficient. So some of the things that we had been working on in math before the pandemic, all that momentum and gain was lost, and now we need to go back and continue forward. The EL student group was 15% proficient. In 2019, they were 5.7%. So that's a really nice gain with our EL students. And then the non-EL student group was 38.2% proficient, and in 2019 was 43.3% proficient. So really looking at, this is a goal that we are not on track for. It is a multi-year goal, but this is one of our areas that we have a lot of work to do in. All students career and college ready by graduation. 70% of our 2019 graduates were enrolled in an institution of higher learning, which was up from 63% of the 2018 grads. 51% of our 2019 grads in the free and reduced student group were enrolled in an institution of higher learning, which was up from 26% of our 2018 grads, and 65% of the 2020 graduates. So we can get data on some things for 2020 graduates and some things for 2019, because it's all has its own little time frame. This particular information, I could get 2020 information on. So 65% of the 2020 graduates participated in rigorous course enrollment. So what that means is that of those 2020 graduates, 65% of them took concurrent enrollment classes, took college in the schools, took an AP course. So that's really good for our students. As they leave our district, they leave with college credits, which helps them have a leg up when they get to college, making them more college ready. We're on track for this goal. All students graduate. The class of 2020 as a whole, 87.3%, 62 students graduated, which was up from 84.5 in 2019. 2.8% continued, meaning 2 students continued, did not graduate, they continued on. 5 dropped out, which was 7%, and 2 were unknown. they leave, we don't know, we can't track, they didn't send, people didn't request information. That's what we know. Our non-free and reduce of 2020, 94.7% of them graduated, and our free and reduced for 2020, 78.8% graduated. So we're on track for this goal. We're making that gain slowly but surely up to where it needs to be. So, world's best workforce. Achievement and integration. Whole nother thought, but it is one plan, and it lives together. So we have 3 goals. It's actually 2 goals, and 1 goal has 2 strategies within our achievement and integration. And our first goal is by 2022, the percentage of students in the free and reduced student group will increase from the current proficiency level of 29.3 to 39% as measured by the Minnesota Comprehensive Assessment in Math. If you are like, oh, that wasn't the same number from 2 years ago when you presented this, the achievement and integration team came to us and asked, hey, here's a window. Would you like to change any of your goals due to the pandemic? So it had been at 45%, and we put it down to 39. We felt that 10% from where we would start at 29.3% is where our baseline is at. And we felt that 10% could be manageable within the time we have. But as you'll see, when we look at that top line of the chart, the percent of free and reduced students in the student group will increase from current proficiency level of 29.3% to 39, and that's by 2022. So by this year's MCAs, we're at 27.6, the actual was. And of course, we had to make all these changes before the MCA tests were even given or before we had any data. So we'll see where we're at and go from there. Most of our data is, that first piece of key indicator is tied directly to our goal. The rest are to help us as we go along to give us some indicators of progress. So when we look at our winter screening from winter to spring in grades K through 8, and that should say 40% because it's 40% on the target. We were able to change that as well. Have 40% of the students that are at summer high risk move up a level as measured by the A math. So if they were at some risk and they moved to low risk, or if they were at high risk and moved to some risk, we only had about 9% of our students move last year. They either came in where they needed to be, or they really didn't. So that's something that we have to work on. There was not any growth data because growth is measured from the test the immediate year prior to the next year. So we didn't have tests in 2020, so there is no growth data. An increase in positive perception from teachers in finding co-teaching with a math specialist beneficial to their growth in implementing the Minnesota math standards and using instructional best practices in math. That was at 90%. The target was 50%, so you can see it was 90% in the prior year as well. And then we did not ask the students their perception because the testing and the end of the school year came so close together. So we left that as a blank at the moment, as a not, and we'll catch it this year. Our math interventionist has the same chunks of data. The only things that differ are when you get down to the fourth line of the chart, the number of students who need to receive support from a math interventionist will decrease due to more students gaining skills and growing at high rates. The actual in 2020 was 35% of students needed support, meaning that they were not at grade level. 18% of those students, we worked with those students who we could move fast or quicker, who were like at the cusp, kind of like Reading Corps does. They catch the kids who are almost there. So we worked with them first, and then we shift with each of the testing sessions. And so our actual was 35%, 37% needed support or were at summer high risk, and we got support to 17% of those students. So we were able to kind of hold the bar, not move too much here and there, but something that we'd like that number to go down over time, which it kind of, the number of students we were supporting was less, but the number of students who needed support was more. So we'll work on that. Increase the positive perception of students who receive support from the math interventionist. 96%, and it's so fun to read what some of them write in there about what their favorite part of it is. It's very hands-on, and the kids really do gain and get out of there. It's fun to see from fall to winter, and then winter to spring, the kids who get to exit and leave, and it's nice. And then increase in positive perception from teachers of students who have received intervention support. Again, that's at 100%. The teachers are just so happy that they can have someone work on those fine skills that they may not have a whole classroom of students needing that skill to be supported. And then our final strategy is, our goal 2 is our cross-district math integration. By 2022, students in grades K through 12 will self-report an increase of their level of comfort with initiating and maintaining social relationships with students different from themselves, racially, ethnically diverse, socioeconomically diverse, from an average comfort level of 2 out of 5 to an average comfort level of 4 out of 5, as measured by a district-created survey utilizing a 5-point Likert scale. So this all has to do with our July math camp summer school. We invited Edgerton students to it as well. They are the reason why we were able to receive achievement and integration funds, because they had a socially isolated racial group. And so we worked with them. They set aside some of their funding for busing, and our math specialists and math interventionists work to help plan and go into classrooms and help teachers. So having a math-focused, we called it a math camp rather than summer school, was very positive. Our students are same information, the first 3 lines, the last 2 lines. The number of students and student group types from Pipestone who participate in cross-district math integration program will increase from the first program to the last. Well, we couldn't have it last year because, or 2 years ago, so last year was our first year. We had 78 students participate from 5 different student groups. So whether that's racial, ethnic, socioeconomic, we had from 5 different student groups. Our target is 75 students with 5 to 6 student groups. So we're right on target for this one. The increase in students' level of comfort was at 50%, and we took some of this information too during last school year when we didn't know if we were going to be able to have summer school and do all this. Our math specialist did virtual integration, so she would work with a class in Edgerton and get a class in Pipestone, and they would do an online activity together so they could see one another and do an activity concerning math together. And the kids really enjoyed that, got to know a lot of kids, so when some of them came to summer school, they knew a few faces. So that's the whole integration part of it, is to learn how to be accepting and be able to make friends with people who are different than you. And that's a big chunk of our plan. So that's all I have. Questions?
How are we gonna tell what our kids did being at home? Is there a way we can see that? Will this stuff help us?
This is helping us.
These testing, MCA?
Yep, MCA, FAST. It's going to be, we're going to see, it's going to take 5 years or more to see the full effect of what that spring at home has done to us. And we're going to be feeling the effects for long after that, unfortunately. But we were blessed that we were able to be in school with our K through 5 kids every day last year. There are many districts who were still on hybrid, and the questions that I have to address in the actual report, how did distance learning impact you? Well, it didn't last year. Last year for our K through 5, it did not, because we were here. It's a different story for our middle school and a different story for our high school. But our youngest learners, we prioritize them. We shifted entire buildings. We asked a lot of people. And and I think that was for our betterment. I mean, when we're able to look back, I think our K through 5 kids, yeah, they lost. It was a change, it was different, they had a lot going on outside of school, a lot of worries and concerns that, when the unknown is, that affects everything. However, our kids were here and they were able to be in front of our staff, and our staff did wonderful work with our kids. So we'll keep monitoring our FAST data, we'll keep monitoring our MCA data, and we'll keep looking at even our classroom data, because our teachers bring that as well to our data meetings, like, well, I'm not seeing this because this is what I'm seeing in the classroom. So, good question. I wish I had an answer.
It's just, I think we're gonna see it.
Definitely.
It's not good, but nothing we can do about it.
We have work to do, Lance.
And you guys are all doing well, just wanna see these kids get better.
Most definitely.
Is there some federal ESSER money available that we could enhance our summer math camp to make it impact even more students?
Yeah, we're already using it.
Yes, Mr. Erdman, we are, yes, Randy, we are looking at.
If you'd like to step out for a little bit.
Yeah, Jack, you might
that'd
need
be
to step
fine.
out. So we have to look at 20% of our ESSER 3 funding to combat the effects of learning loss. And so in doing that, we've surveyed our parents. We did that September.
July and August.
Yeah, we
have to
did that
get
really
in.
early. We've surveyed, we've been talking with groups of teachers. On Wednesday, they'll have a moment to talk about that again. Just, our plan came back, so we have to refine it and get more accurate in it, and yes.
Good.
How do our numbers and trends compare to the rest of the state? Or districts, that are peers of ours?
I didn't, as I'm putting together this, I don't look at our peers around us. I look at the state, and we're following right where the state goes. I mean, we're even better in some of our areas than the state, but the whole state is feeling the effects of the pandemic.
Right, and that's why I asked, because everybody was in the same predicament.
Yep. And some people, had it worse than we had. I mean, all of our kids were able to get internet access. There were many districts who were putting handouts together and putting them on a bus and going up to a door and handing things out. We did not have to do that.
Devices,
We were well prepared with our devices, our internet access. So we're able to come out a little bit better in some of our areas than the state. Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Any
Thank
other
you.
questions?
You're welcome.
Can I have a motion to approve the combined summary of the 2020-2021 World's Best Workforce and Achievement and Integration Report?
So moved.
Second.
Chrissy and Lance. All those in favor of approval of the combined summary signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. 11.7, adopt the 2022-2023 budget planning timeline. Kevin?
I just have a timeline that I put out every year that lays out our budget planning process. This keeps us in line with statutory requirements. If the district is making reductions and we have to lay off staff, these timelines is what you need to follow to do that. It also is a way to communicate and talk with our public, so ask for your approval on that, and December, the Finance Committee kind of starts off the process, so.
Are there any questions of Kevin? Any questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adopt the 2022-2023 budget planning timeline?
So moved.
Randy and Brad. All those in favor of adopting the 2022-2023 budget planning timeline signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Number 12, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Katie
Second.
and Chrissy. All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Meeting adjourned.